So, let's dive into one of the most chilling and honestly one of the most famous pieces of advice in all of political history. It comes from Niccolo Machiavelli's masterpiece, The Prince, and it's a solution so brutal it's been shocking people for over 500 years. So what exactly did he say? And maybe more importantly, what cold hard logic could possibly lead to such a conclusion? Let's get into it.
Okay, I want you to put yourself in this scenario. You're a prince, a ruler. You've just conquered a new city. But here's the catch. This isn't just any old place. This is a city that has always been free. It has its own laws, its own traditions, and a really long, proud history of governing itself. So you've won the battle, but now comes the real challenge. How do you actually hold on to it?
And there it is, Machiavelli's answer. It is blunt, it is unsettling, and there's no room for misinterpretation. He says the single most reliable way to hold a formerly free city is not to win over the people, not to reform their laws, but to completely and utterly destroy it. Now that's a shocking thing to hear, right? So to understand how he gets there, we have to follow his logic, step by cold, methodical step.
See, Machiavelli doesn't just jump straight to destruction. He's actually very systematic about it. He lays out 3, and only 3, possible options for a ruler who finds themselves in this situation. And by looking at all 3 paths, we can see exactly how he arrives at his ruthless final answer.
So what are the choices on the table? Well, first, there's the one we just saw. Destroy it. Option 2, you could pack up your court, move in, and rule the city directly, in person. And the third option is to try a more hands-off approach. You let them keep their own laws, you install a friendly local government that's loyal to you, and you just collect taxes. Now, 2 of those sound way more reasonable, right? So why, in Machiavelli's mind, are they actually guaranteed to fail?
Well, Machiavelli's whole method here is basically a process of elimination. He takes a hard look at those 2 gentler options, and he just systematically picks them apart, showing why they're built on really shaky ground and, in his view, are pretty much doomed from the start. Let's start with option 3, because on the surface, it seems like the easiest way to go. You rule indirectly. You just set up a small group of local elites, an oligarchy, who are loyal to you. They run the day-to-day stuff, and you pull the strings from a safe distance. Simple enough, right?
Well, not so fast. Machiavelli predicts this sets off a fatal chain reaction. Sure, that little puppet government owes its entire existence to you. But what about everyone else? The rest of the citizens, they remember what it was like to be free. And that memory, it doesn't just fade away. It becomes a political weapon. It's a rallying cry for rebellion. And sooner or later, your friendly government is either going to get overthrown by its own people, or, if they're smart, they'll just join the rebellion to save their own skin.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. For Machiavelli, this isn't just a theory. He points to history as his proof. He says, look at the Spartans. They installed friendly governments all over Greece, and what happened? Every single one of them eventually rebelled. He concluded that the memory of freedom is just too potent, too powerful to be managed by a proxy government.
Okay, so if puppet rule is a ticking time bomb, what about option 2? You just move in yourself and govern the city directly. I mean, that seems way more secure. You're right there on the ground, you can stamp out problems as soon as they pop up.
Machiavelli actually agrees that this can work, but he calls it a temporary fix. And here's why. Your personal presence is basically like holding the lid on a boiling pot. Yeah, you can keep the water from spilling over, you can respond to trouble immediately, you can make sure your officials aren't abusing the locals. But what happens the second you have to leave? The moment you take your hand off that lid, that underlying problem, that powerful memory of liberty, just comes roaring right back.
So, if ruling through puppets fails, and ruling in person is just a temporary fix, well, you can see how we're being forced back towards his horrifying first option. The entire argument, everything we've talked about, hinges on this one powerful, invisible force that Machiavelli saw as the true enemy of any conqueror.
The memory of liberty. This is it. This is the absolute core of his argument. It's like the ghost in the machine of conquest. And for Machiavelli, this isn't some warm, fuzzy feeling of nostalgia. No, it is an active, dangerous political weapon.
I mean, think about how wild that is. He's arguing that this force is so powerful it gets passed down through generations. People who never even experience freedom for themselves will still be willing to fight and die for the idea of it, just for the memory of what their city used to be.
Politically explosive. That's the key phrase. You can tear down the city walls, you can get rid of the old leaders, but you can't kill an idea. And for Machiavelli, as long as that idea of past freedom exists, the conquered city is basically a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but this is all just theory. Well, not to Machiavelli. He saw himself as a political scientist, and he looked to history for his data. And for him, the ultimate case study, the ultimate proof, was the long, bloody rivalry between two ancient superpowers, Rome and Carthage. This is almost like a perfect, if terrifying, historical experiment. A/B testing, right? In the first attempt, Rome defeats Carthage but lets the city survive under its control. And what was the result? Exactly what Machiavelli would predict: rebellion. So Rome goes back for a second attempt. This time, they don't make the same mistake. They tear the city down to its foundations. And the result? The Carthaginian problem was solved permanently.
You know, this argument does more than just answer one strategic question. It really opens a window directly into Machiavelli's entire way of thinking. He's not really interested in what's good or what's moral or what's just. He is interested in one thing: what is effective.
And this right here is the very essence of a philosophy that we now call political realism. It is a cold, hard look at the world as it is, not as we wish it would be.
This really shows us his whole method. He separates the political question from the moral one. He's not asking, is this the right thing to do? He's asking, does it work? He's not celebrating destruction. He's just acting like a cold-blooded analyst. He's pointing at the historical evidence and basically saying, look, this is a horrifying conclusion, I get it, but the data shows it's the only one that guarantees success. His whole goal is to be brutally honest about how power actually works, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be.
And that, of course, leaves us with a big question, the one that has haunted political thinkers ever since he first wrote these words down. We've seen his logic, we've seen his evidence, but is he right? So, that's what we're left with. Is Machiavelli ultimately right about this? Is it true that the memory of liberty is so powerful that the only way to defeat it is to literally salt the earth? Can that idea ever truly be extinguished by force, or is it something that can survive anything thrown at it? History gives us plenty of examples for both sides of that argument, and believe me, the debate is far from over. So, what do you think?